Guys, it's Franklin and welcome back to another YouTube video. As you can tell from the title of the video, today's topic is about my experience as a first year at MIT and what I wish I knew prior to starting school. I finally finished my first year at MIT. It was amazing and rewarding, but definitely not a walk in the park. When you're attending arguably one of the most academically rigorous institutions in the country, you might expect it comes with its immense challenges. I've learned so much beyond academics, and there are some things that I wish I knew prior to starting school. This is why I'm making this video, to help you all on your academic journeys and provide student lifestyle tips that can lead you to success. I'm hoping that my advice can resonate with students from any background at any institution. However, keep in mind that some of this advice might not be applicable to you. Before I get into my tips, I would like to summarize my accomplishments and experiences during my first year. I plan to major in 18C, which is Math and Computer Science. This is a diversion from my original thought of doing Course 20, which is Bioengineering. I happen to still be pre-med, but I was more inclined to choose an unconventional major for this career path. Now into my year in review. I am a MedLink, and I've done this at Simmons and my fraternity. Through this, I've gained hands-on experience helping other students in my living communities with their medical needs. I participated in my first year up in the Niles lab focused on malaria. This was my first lab experience, and I had amazing support from my direct supervisors. I joined Global Health Alliance and became their marketing director. This is my first exec position in the group and at MIT. Through this, I learned how to run an Instagram and advertise an organization. I joined WellCom, which is the UA Student Health and Wellbeing group, and I was particularly in a working group focused on MIT mental health and counseling. Through this, we recently created a resource one-pager for students and implemented it into course advising. I'm a well-being ambassador, and through this, I'm directly working with an MIT office to provide support for students and encourage healthy habits. I'm an OL, or an orientation leader, and this summer we started prep for this fall's orientation for the class of 2026. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm in Zeta Psi, the fraternity, and I've been elected as the summer housing chair and community service chair for this year. Through this opportunity, I've met tons of amazing people and just joined a great group of guys. I've modeled for the first time in the Infinite magazine. I'm a lifeguard and swim instructor for MIT Recreation, which is my first on-campus job. I've met some amazing people, lots and lots of amazing people. I got my first and paid internship at BIDMC as a sustainability program assistant through the Priscilla King Gray Center. And I started that this summer, and I plan to continue it in the fall. I traveled abroad for the first time with my frat to Ireland. I passed all my classes. On the screen you can see which ones I took in fall and spring. I had my first experience with coding last semester in 6111. I sailed for the first time in my first PE class fall semester. And yeah, that's my year in review. So now let's go on to my advice. Hey guys, so I'm actually filming this after I started editing, just because I kind of felt that I needed to further contextualize some of the hardships that I faced freshman year. So first semester, I think, as a lot of college students go through when they're a freshman, the transition is really difficult, and it was for me. I came from a pretty small school. I've never been in such a big city. I'm from Alabama, and going through these transitional stages of my life was pretty difficult, especially academics-wise, because academics have always been pretty easy for me, and that definitely wasn't the case when I started school here. The schoolwork is hard for pretty much everyone here, but I do think that I kind of made it a little harder for myself. I was drinking way too much caffeine. I was drinking like 2 Celsiuses a day. That's like 400 milligrams of caffeine, and that was awful. I was sleeping at 3 a.m. and waking up at 8 a.m. nearly every day, and on weekends, I would just go out with friends and be really socially exhausted because I never got a break during the week, and then I just went out all the time during the weekends. I think this kind of caught up with me last semester because I was not doing too hot. I was borderline failing a class. I got a 5th week flag, and I was just super burnt out. So all the tips I'm going to give you are from personal experience, and I kind of just want to avoid you all getting into a workaholic attitude. I think that hustling and grinding is definitely like built into the culture of like a school that has so many students that have a lot of drive and work ethic, but in a way that lifestyle is just not sustainable. And I kind of just wanted to get that point before I got into my tips, that my advice is personally driven. So I hope that you'll understand I'm in a lot better position in my life. So yeah. My first reminder is MIT is hard, so don't underestimate it. This means don't take too many classes and manage your time properly. A good way to do this is to consider your extracurriculars as units, and that will work so you don't spread yourself too thin. Don't hesitate to leave or take breaks from groups because they're always understanding. Just be communicative. My second piece of advice is your mental health and physical health are not expendable. This means get enough sleep, take time to yourself, and work out regularly in forms that you enjoy so that you know you'll do them regularly. For me, that's swimming and lifting, but for you, it might be heading to the Z to play some basketball or volleyball, or doing yoga. My next point is value free time more than ever, because here you're not going to get a lot of it. And a quick reminder is social time is not actually free time. Parties and social activities that are pretty intensive are often exhausting and mentally draining. So it's okay to do that, of course, and hang out with your friends, but just remind yourself that they're not breaks. Another thing to do is don't stress during IP, P&R terms, or holidays. These are meant to be chiller and more of a break, so treat them as so. That means don't put off things to weekends, don't put off things to grind during holidays, because in reality, you're not going to do any of that. Some things that I would recommend doing in your free time are sleeping, spending time with yourself, eating out, drawing, making videos, like I enjoy that, seeing movies, etc. And I highly recommend looking for student-run performances and events on campus because they're amazing and really enjoyable. I've seen logs, ADT, DT, MoCA, MIT regressions, and they're all amazing groups, and there are plenty of amazing groups on campus. My next piece of advice is take advantage of resources made for you because they're here. Don't hesitate. A lot of people seem to be a little resistant to seeking help, but there are plenty of resources that want you to ask for help when you need it. For example, asking for extensions through S-Cubed, talking to your teachers directly and asking for accommodations, using extensions that are given to you in the syllabus, going to get counseling, whether that's at MIT Mental Health or off-campus counseling. And honestly, my favorite resource is asking upperclassmen about their experiences and for advice. That's been really beneficial because sometimes a more structured resource won't really tell you how it is. I love asking my pre-med friends about timelines and upperclassmen about what clubs they're taking to see kind of if I'm doing too much. My next tip is to keep an optimistic and positive attitude to your classes. I took a lot of GIRs this semester, this year, and those can be a little boring, I'm not gonna lie. But it's really horrible to just complain all the time, and I kind of realized that. So I would recommend kind of looking for the good in your academic work to try and enjoy it, whether or not it relates to your field of study or not. that will just make time go by faster and the work easier, I would say, or more bearable, I guess. Constantly viewing a class as a burden won't help you get through the year, so I definitely recommend keeping a positive attitude. My next piece of advice is to stay organized. Find ways to keep track of assignments. I use a lot of spreadsheets. I like organization within my iPad. I use GoodNotes, but a lot of people use Notability because MIT gives it to us. And that leads into my next tip, which is take advantage of the tools on campus. There are a lot of things that I found out a little too late about. So, for example, free apps that were given, for example, Notability, and we're also given access to Adobe Studio and a lot of other programs. There are a ton of maker spaces and cool tools on campus. I personally laser engraved, and I'm trying to learn how to use other tools like 3D printing. My next tip is stop being overly critical of yourself. This can mean that you should stop comparing yourself to others, because really no one here is going to be caring if you don't have an internship, what stats you had in high school, or what stats you have currently, and just stop judging yourself. You're your own worst critic. Beyond that, I would recommend stop feeling guilty about very minor things. For example, like getting a little behind on work to have fun if you're kind of overworked. Feeling guilty about like spending money on things that make you happy, or like getting a late night snack. Like, those are pretty trivial, and I know, like, personally, I tend to be a little overcritical of myself. So I definitely recommend to just kind of not live completely guilt-free, but just be mindful of, like, some things are okay. You don't have to be perfect, and no one is. Also, contrastly, I know spending money is, like, important, but I would also recommend to be conscious of budgeting, because it's really easy to go overboard as a college student. So those are actually all the tips that I have and lessons that I learned after my first year here. So if you enjoyed this video and want to hear more from me later, click that like button, the subscribe button, comment, interact, follow me on Instagram, do all the things, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!